As we head down to Rio de Janeiro, talk about the 31st. No, what is it? What Olympiad is it? The 31st Olympiad in Rio. With my good buddy, Alan Springer, who's the executive producer for Yahoo Sports, someone I worked a lot with over the years, and a very good friend. Alan, welcome to Tiki and Tierney. How is Rio?
Rio, Tiki, is overcast and cloudy today and about to rain, but it's still the Olympics and it's still the same energy. How you guys doing?
We are good, man. Look, the majesty of the Olympics is one thing, but all leading up to the Olympics, the only thing we heard about was everything that was going wrong. Does it feel like it's not ready for an Olympic down there?
It doesn't feel like it's, as you know, Tiki, we've done these Olympics before where there's always everybody trying to say that the world's falling apart and this is going to go wrong and that's going to go wrong. And there's that usual chatter. But the reality is it's Brazil. And so what I mean by that is there's a certain level of standards for certain structures and traffic and things that you expect anyway. I mean, we had this 2 years ago when we came down here for the World Cup. If you're going to go 3 miles, it could literally take you an hour. So you have to plan for traffic and buses and everything. You want to stay safe, you don't go into the favelas. It's just normal common sense stuff if you come to a place like Rio, but nothing out of the ordinary as far as Olympics. So one of my goals, and you and I had talked about this before, was to come down here and to kind of quiet a lot of those myths that the world is falling apart down here, and it's not. It's your typical pre-Olympic chatter. You got over 4,000 members of the media here with 4 days. A lot of us 4 days before the opening ceremonies. Now we're down to the final 48 hours, and we're just kind of looking for stories. So, no, the sky is not falling down here. It's your typical Olympic setup, and other than the traffic and some long lines for the media venues, everything's been pretty smooth.
Now we're talking to Alan Springer, executive producer for Yahoo Sports, who's down in Rio de Janeiro for the Olympics right now. I'm curious, as you search for stories, Alan, there was some reports that the enthusiasm of the Brazilian people wasn't high for the Olympics. Do you see that? Do you feel that as you've been down there for, 2 days now?
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that because that's the story that I have coming out. It'll go live on the site in actually about 20 minutes. We went yesterday, and there's a human rights group that's been fighting on behalf of the people, and there's a lot of stories where you'll find people who their lives have been uprooted and kind of moved and quoted in the story, destroyed because of the Olympic movement. We found 2 people, one, a girl who was living in a favela right by where the opening ceremony is going to be held, the Olympic Stadium, and her entire favela neighborhood was torn down and rebuilt for a middle-class neighborhood because the IOC wanted to show the beauty of Rio. And the great part of our story is the beauty of Rio is the favelas. It is the lower class families. It is the hardworking people. I mean, this is who the people are, the community, the Portuguese speaking community, which they're very great people. They're very warm. They're very opening to you to show you around and show you where they live. But they're not as welcoming of the games because, like we saw in Sochi and a bunch of other places, you shouldn't be spending billions of dollars to bring games here to showcase the rich of the IOC. You should be putting that money back into the infrastructure of the favelas and the school systems and the housing and everything here. So we're kind of in a bubble. They call it the Olympic bubble because the people that are working here, the Brazilians, are all volunteers, and there's 20,000 of them, and they walk around in the same yellow polo shirts, and they're very accommodating, and they smile, and they want you to see the best of Brazil. But if you go off the beaten path, which is about me, Tiki, that's where I like to find my stories,
Yep.
You will find majority of the community around here is not excited that we're here, but you won't see any of that anywhere you see in the coverage because most people in the media are kind of isolated.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that you bring that specific point up because I had that experience when I went to Beijing and I was covering it for MSNBC. Around the venues in the Olympic Village and everything that you're supposed to go to, it's all hunky-dory. People are just there. But we had a fixer who took me out, right? Took me way outside of where the Olympic Village was, and no one spoke English. I mean, I don't think half those people knew what was going on, in Beijing, which brings the question that I think jumps to my mind is the safety issue. You posted a picture on one of your social media sites, I think it was Facebook or maybe it was even Instagram, about the military presence that is down there. Is that big there?
Yeah, that's one thing, Tiki, that I've never seen. That is huge. And listen, we went outside the bubble in Sochi. We got on a train and we went up because actually the what people don't realize about Sochi, the Olympics are actually held in the town of Adler, which is an hour south of Sochi. So where we are in Baja, or Barra, however you pronounce it, if you speak English or Portuguese, we're actually 22 miles from downtown Rio. So we're actually not even in central Rio. We're out in the suburbs. So if you stay in this bubble, you're going from your hotel, you're going back here, and there's a bus that takes you there. It's 3 miles. It'll take you 45 minutes because it's still bad traffic. But where we went yesterday to tell the story I was explaining before about these people who were displaced, you go into Rio, and the freeway into Rio, every 500 or so yards, there is, when I say armored guards, as you mentioned the picture, it's a convoy. I mean, these guys have full rifles in their hands. They're dressed in full army fatigue. There's 22,000 military soldiers. And it's not like they're just at freeway exits. They're standing on the side of the highway lined up. So when you fly into the airport and you're coming to the Olympic facilities, you're going to get that fear right away. I posted that picture, and I know my mother immediately commented, "Are you okay?" You know, I'm not trying to cause fear, but in a way, I feel more safe, right? I mean, you know that you know, one of the biggest things we heard about is I think it was the Australian journalist got stuck in a tunnel and they got carjacked. It's not going to happen if you stay on these main roads, because you do have somebody who's fully armed every 500 yards with a shotgun in their hand, and there's a reason for that. I don't know if it's overcautious or not, but I have not felt unsafe at any point that we've been here, and I try to go outside the comfort zone, because that's kind of the stories that I tell. But when you flip on the TV Friday night and you see opening ceremonies and NBC and everything for the next couple of weeks, you probably won't see a lot of that. And I'm not saying that it's not there, but inside the Olympic bubble, once the lights go on and the cauldron is lit, everything always seems to run smoothly, and all this stuff will be forgotten once we leave here.
Talking to Alan Springer here, executive producer for Yahoo Sports, who's down in Rio covering the Olympic Games. And, you know, no more forget the negative stories now, because you're right. Once the Olympics starts and we start handing out medals, the stories change and the perceptions change, and the feats, the accomplishments become what really the message should be around Olympics. What stories from we'll start American standpoint, are we looking most at? Is it Michael Phelps, or is it U.S. gymnastics, or is it Usain Bolt going for another gold medal in the track and field?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting Olympics, Tiki, because we're at a point now, the names you hit on are exactly what I was going to say, because we're at a point now where this is almost the changing of the guard. When you look at Terry Walsh coming back, you're looking at Michael Phelps, you're looking at Bolt, even Carmelo Anthony, who has the chance to become the first athlete to win 4 gold medals in basketball. This is the end of the era for a lot of these legends. I was kind of disappointed LeBron didn't come down too, because it would have been another perfect legend, or even Kobe if Kobe was able to play one more Olympics. You've got all these legends that we're not going to see again. I mean, Bolt maybe comes back. I'd be surprised if he did, but we know we're not going to see Phelps again. We know we're not going to see Terry Walsh again. We're not going to see a guy like Carmelo Anthony. So I think the big thing for a lot of us is that this is the farewell to the legends. But on the flip side, the one shining star, the biggest star for the U.S. is going to be the Simone Biles in gymnastics. I mean, everything we've seen, she is the greatest. I mean, some people say she's the greatest gymnast ever. She's flawless. And I think in women's gymnastics, it's going to be a chance for us to go back-to-back in obviously individual and overall. The thing about Phelps and guys like Lochte, they made the team, but if you look at their times in the U.S. trials in Omaha, they were a second or two off from where they were 4 years ago. So the U.S. Swim team, there's going to be a lot of younger swimmers, the Katie Ledeckis, that we haven't heard about, that are going to kind of emerge on the scene. But going into it, there's a lot of events we're not favored in swimming right now, which is kind of unheard of for us. So it's the old guys who are getting one last shot in the pool. But I think gymnastics, obviously basketball, which I think is kind of a given, will be the two that will dominate the most. And track and field is still kind of up in the air.
Yeah, no, you're right. Opening ceremonies is a couple of days away. I'll be in touch, obviously, social media-wise. Maybe we'll get you back up as the fortnight continues on down the line, Alan. I appreciate you checking in from Rio.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Be good.